All right, we are live. Welcome to IPO Warriors. We are live streaming IPOs today as we try to do as often as possible. We've got some really interesting ones on the calendar for today. We've got HeartCore, which is HTCR. It's a Japanese software company that is a low float IPO. Underwriter is Bosted Securities. Whenever we see that, we're pretty interested in playing it. Allocation requests were modest. I put in an allocation request for about 400 shares. I was allocated 41 shares. That's pretty good. What I'm going to be looking for here is any kind of debut premium that is not ridiculous to get in on the debut, and hopefully we get a few halts upwards. There's no guarantee that this is going to run, but if we get a ridiculous IPO, like a debut premium in the 30s or 40s, then just have to let it go and watch it. The other one that we're watching is Sky Technologies. This is a low float IPO, 1.5 million shares. That's super low float. And what looks weird about this one is simply that the financials are so bad, but the names on the attached to it are pretty respectable. So I'm thinking this might be like AERC and might be kind of a ultra low float with no shares available. And I can't justify taking a huge debut trade on it just because I expect it to open up pretty high. But then if it could go up. I mean, we saw AERC priced at 10, opened at 40, and ran up to 100 through about 5 halts. So we have to be ready there. If you notice, I've got the war paint light on today. It's a little extra excitement I'm bringing in just for the opening here. Can't really see very well. This is a blue light that those who helped contribute to the streaming kit helped me buy, and thought I'd add a little color to the show. So it's also just going to be sort of what you first see when you open up the video, trying to build up the YouTube following a bit here. We need to get to about 1,000 subscribers before I can monetize this. It's gotten to the point where we have 1,000 subscribers to the newsletter. I think we're almost up to 1,500 followers on Twitter. It's time to start figuring out how to. Oh, you can't see my face. That's why. That's silly. Should be there. You can't see me? Is anybody there? Can you see my? I think I'm on. All right. Well, I think I am. So let's sort of jump in here. Yes, the war paint, the war face is on. Oh, there we go. Allocation 411 of 6,000. I got, well, okay. Well, that's impressive. I got 41 jokes. Yes, or I can see you. You're not sharing. I'm not sharing my screen yet. Let's get to. I'm going to turn off the war paint because it's blinding me, and I need to see. So sorry, but that was fun. Okay, let me adjust my eyes a little bit here because I can get a little more light going. Not a lot. Okay, not sharing. I'm sharing. Hold on 1 second, guys. So we have. Let me first show you kind of where I start the day. So I start the day over in Benzinga Pro. I guess I got to share my screen or no one's going to see anything. Give me 1 second, guys. Sharing is share screen. I think we'll share this screen so I can see while I'm doing. So one of the things I like to do is check out Benzinga Pro. And Benzinga Pro has a pretty cool news screener here where I can put in whatever I'm watching. And they're a little bit wonky today for some reason. But what I was able to glean from this before was the debut times. And what I got, they're having some connectivity issues here. That's no fun. Anyway, what I was able to see here before was the debut times for HTCR and SKYT. And what I saw was that they're going to start the pricing at 950 on HTCR, which means that we should be able to see the price indication and enter in our limit orders if we feel like buying in on the debut, starting at about 950. So here we see, okay, HTCR enterprises will open for quote at 950, expected to open to trade after 10 a.m. So what they're going to do is they're going to balance out the buy and the sell orders. And with big mainstream IPOs where they have 20 or 30 million shares to balance, that can take a long time. With these low float IPOs, it generally doesn't take much longer than 10 a.m. They sort of sit there and wait. And you've got the market maker kind of standing next to her on the call with the people down at NASDAQ. And the people at NASDAQ are literally just calling him or, telling him, okay, we've got, the price now is 12. Now it's 1175, 1174, and they're kind of calling out the price as it moves. And then the market maker who, is attached to the deal basically kind of takes a little bit of an input from the underwriter or underwriters and says, okay, ready, set, go. And it's that simple. I talked to somebody who did who has been the the market maker who made that call on one of the recent IPOs. And he explained that is the process. So the underwriter does have some input. He kind of whisper in the ears, yell at the guy saying, yeah, go, go, go. But there is a market maker who's attached to the deal who will basically verbally give the command to the NASDAQ desk to say, yeah, go now. And they say, are you sure? He says, yes. And then he hears a click and we all see the stock start trading on the public markets. SKYX is open to trade at 10:10 a.m. So we've got a little bit of a stagger. I kind of expect these to halt. So we may be in a halt for one while the other one starts trading. Makes it a little bit difficult to trade both if you're going with your full spending power. Yes, you can enter your order in now, but I don't know where you're going to enter it until we see that debut price start. You're kind of taking a shot in the dark. You could put, that we know that HTCR priced at $5, but this could open, it could debut at $4. It could debut at $12. It could debut at $40. TKLF, kind of similar, is another Japanese low float IPO priced at $4 and debuted at $41. So until we see that number, we don't really know where to put our price here. So the first one we're going to see is HTCR. We should see that in a couple minutes. So another thing I like to do is just remind myself, what did I write about this on the day of the, when I was doing my research earlier in the week, what did I think about this? Because a lot of times I kind of, especially where I've made mistakes, I've gone back and read my own notes and said, geez, why did I do that? I said, don't do that. Or I gave very different, David gave a very different set of instructions or, advice that I then didn't follow. So this company does CMS. They claim a lot of buzzwords like AI and other things, but I looked at their site. Kind of looks like they do content management systems, experience management systems for primarily Japanese companies. They have some impressive companies on their client list: Japan Airlines, Hitachi, Ricoh, and Brother. Who knows how much work they actually do for them? I know that I lived in Japan for 2 years, and the technology is surprisingly, especially on the web, it takes a really long time for Japanese companies to make any decisions. It's a decision by community type of process. And once they are embedded with a company, they're very unlikely to change to another company. The financials aren't bad, but the considerations that I had were simply the super low float. It's Bosted offering. Doesn't really look like a stealth debut, but it really could be because the CFO has a Chinese name, and that sometimes is enough. We know that China's on Chinese New Year's holiday right now. They got the Olympics, so I sort of expected some kind of shenanigans to get pulled here. The name of the CFO is Chizhi Gao, which is not a Japanese name. So I think that this could be a little bit like some of the other low float IPOs we've seen Bosted do. We have to be a little bit careful. There's no rule that says just because it's Bosted and it debuts at a reasonable premium that it's going to fly up. The market took a little bit of a hit with CPI data today, but not that bad. Things are not looking as terrible as they have on other days where we got bad CPI data. So we are probably getting some early indications here. If we're not, then it's time to maybe go to mobile. HTCR. Oh, we are. Okay, 403. All right, so we are not seeing a huge debut premium, which on one hand is kind of interesting. I like this setup for a debut trade. I'm not going to do anything too crazy. I think SKYX might be a little more wild. But this is setting up. I'm not going to enter anything yet. I'm going to give us a few minutes to shake out a little bit. But this is not insane. Actually, this is way more normal than I expected, and probably indicative of why we got these healthy allocations off the requests on Webull. So while we do this, I'm going to take a deep breath and try to catch up on some of the comments here. I see you. We see you. Okay, not sharing. Am sharing. Able to enter on CHG. That's something good. Newsletter format. Thank you for the feedback there. Yeah, the newsletter is getting to be a bit more work. Just kind of preparing people to envision that I will probably need to start moving towards some kind of premium format. I'm going to make it super affordable for people who are already in this. But I've looked around at some of the other stuff out there, and I believe that I'm at least as good or much better, and those are charging a ridiculous amount of money. I will not be charging a ridiculous amount of money, but I would like to be able to focus on this even more, so I need to find a way to justify the time and money I'm spending on this. Okay, we are seeing some crazy movement in AREB. That was something I called out during midweek. That was an up listing reverse split up 65% today. SOPA a little bit of a run here. We're seeing actually the market's bouncing back pretty well. This is looking pretty decent. I was expecting if we got a car crash of the debut is not looking good, although we do have, all right, we have 380 for the Htcr debut. I'm a little bit surprised. 350. I'm going to give us a few more minutes. Need to respond to a little bit of private chatting here. I still feel like playing this one. It's just too many, too much of a setup that I like in terms of low float and Bowstead to not give this a shot at 405. It's not too. So we're seeing about $4. About $4. I'm gonna give us a little more space here. Looking at about $4 on the debut. That's pretty. Almost like we could let this drop a little bit, but I'm gonna try this. So I'm gonna set my entry up. I'm gonna go just above this. I don't think we're gonna see above about 415. We're seeing pretty low. Pretty low start for a Bowstead play. I can't remember the last time I saw a Bowstead play go. Wow, $1, $2. It's crazy. I can't remember the last time I saw a Bowstead play go like this. I guess some of this could be no Chinese buyers. Has a Bowstead security ever not pumped? They were involved with the Vine debut, and that did not do well. They were kind of a joint book runner, though. This is their deal. So for this to be so low is a bit strange. It's a bit different than we've seen. It could be they were involved with an uplisting before that was, gosh, someone help me out there. I forget which one it was. I have it in my list here. Give me a second. They're involved with an uplisting or follow-up offering before FCUV that took a day before it kind of blew up. So it's not, like I said, there's no rule that says, oh, just because it's posted, they're going to manipulate or pump or do something. Usually it's enough to bring day traders in. So I've always liked playing them. But you do, things get played out. They do get a little bit, once enough people catch on to a pattern, they buy in, people buy in, too many people buy in, there's not a whole lot of upside opportunity there. The low float IPOs there was a time last year where they all, before I'd say a lot of people were catching on to them, before they got a lot of exposure, where they would kind of get manipulated, pumped, and then day traders would come in and pump it up further. So once people sort of caught on to it, the debut prices started getting inflated to the point where, I burned myself really hard on SIDU. Was not following my rules, was not thinking clearly. I was under way too much external pressure from a bunch of other things that just kind of culminated into a disaster of deciding to play it no matter what debut price it showed. And it was seeded price. I mean, I just shouldn't have played it. Price at 5, debuted at 27, went up into a halt, and then halt of death opened up at like 18 and then fell down to something like 10. I've been looking my wounds for a while on that one. So I'm over it, put it behind me, took the lesson, and moving on. So you got to take notes and try to have a short memory in this game. Probably a bit like being a defensive back in the NFL. You're going to have touchdowns scored on you. You still got to get up, do your job, and try to play the next play. So we're seeing things strengthen a little bit here, moving up to 4. Not warrants attached to this, so that it's debuting $1 below the IPO price is surprising to me. We are starting to see this buy-side balance take on a little bit of a stronger side. We've got a lot of shares available for sale here for a for a low float IPO. It's a lot of people deciding that now's the time they want to sell. Sort of surprised at that. I'm going to make sure I have this lined up because once this starts trading, I will flip over to the this chart, which I like a little bit better. There is another one, CHG, which I'm going to put it over here because I don't really expect it to be all that exciting. Htcr SKYX. So Htcr, we're expecting this to go first. And we're seeing this inch up a little bit. They're balancing out. It looks like around 410. So if you want to get it on the debut, you probably want to be there at like 4. To be safe, 450. Don't go, especially if you're buying a big order, don't go jacking up the price to $10 with 20,000 shares. You burn everybody. I think that was another thing. We had someone in here who at least claimed they bought SIDU at 25,000 shares, which maybe it was crap, but if they did, they took an even bigger loss than I did. I don't even want to know how they handled that. But looking over at the rest of the market, it started as a very ugly open for the SPY, is now just not so bad. One of my bigger positions, Palantir, is gone from red to green, or at least by red to even. A few other things going up. SOPA, AirReb and SOPA, 2 trades that I made on Wednesday for wins, have come way down and come way back up. These low float, kind of fresh, new to the scene, new on people's radar. They have a pretty good track record, especially if they dip hard. When they dip hard, people seem to like to, if they dip hard, people seem to like to accumulate. These trading groups seem to accumulate and then wait a day or two and then pump them. So I have been watching out for those plays. There's a few others of us out there that are doing that. Clearly, it's something that Twitter groups are keying in on. Certainly volatile, though. So, take your profits, move on to the next one. We're seeing a lot of red, and Vimeo got hit really hard. That was an uplist or a spin-off that spun off at 50. It's now down at 10. A lot of just kind of sideways, not up or down in the mainstream kind of growth tech stocks. All right, for 15, what's up on my chart here looks like a lot of, DATS is up 5%, MYNZ up 8%, PET's up 8%, SOPA up 17%, AREB 61%. So, these market recently, I've seen a lot of days where it's either the kind of meme day trader penny stocks going up, or it's the kind of growth tech stocks. Those are the ones I'm mostly watching because there's so much volatility in them. But it's usually one or the other. Today we're kind of seeing the growth stuff is holding out a little bit. I guess, as analysts have been saying, maybe the inflation fears have already been priced in. But it's like today, kind of, I think there was an expectation that there would be a shock to the inflation numbers. And now people kind of like looked around and said, oh, wait, everything's okay. The sky hasn't fallen. All right, so maybe we can buy back in. All right. And that's good. That's good for IPO trading. IPO trading tends to be really terrible in bad, like in fear markets. Nobody wants to go buy something new. On more stable markets, we get a little bit, we get a little bit more enthusiasm. We get a little bit more conviction. So we're seeing, I want to jump back to what we're seeing here on Htcr. So we're seeing in the Htcr a bit of kind of waffling around the 410, 415 level. So one thing I like to do in this situation is maybe place one trade to make sure I don't miss the debut, but then maybe place another trade, like kind of ladder my trades in. So give me a second. I don't think this is going to just bomb, partly because of just the history of Htcr, or sorry, of Bosted offerings. So I'm thinking maybe I put one in to make sure I get something on the initial debut, and then something if it does if it kind of sells off right away, just for a moment, think about that 10% move down. So from 415, if it lost 45, just do the math real quick. So we'd say, like, what if it drops like 10% into a halt and then rebounds? So 415 times 0.9 would bring us to 373. So maybe place a little stink bid order at 375 and see if we get that fill. Then we are dollar cost averaging down. If we don't, okay. But it gives us a little bit of a buffer there, by lowering our average entry or average cost basis, then we have an easier way of getting out of a bag if we end up getting stuck. So meager pre-order allocation on SKYX. That's exactly what I would expect on this one. If we talked about Arab running, called that out on Wednesday on the day that it dipped on the uplisting. So I expect SKYX, and I'm saving some firepower for that one. SKYX, to me, the setup and some of the other things I've heard about this sounds a lot like AERC. And if you remember AERC, it's some air conditioning with anti-COVID. It's like a UV light that kills air and used in hospitals. And it debuted the day before Thanksgiving. It priced at 10, had 1.5 million shares, I believe, or was it 1 million shares? It was an ultra low float, one of the lowest floats I've ever seen. And in the pre-debut crossing, like what we're watching right now for Htcr, we saw it was like 1,000 shares or 2,000 shares being sold with an imbalance of like literally like 5 or 10 or 12 or 11. Like no shares were available. And from a $10 IPO, it from a $10 IPO, it debuted. It first showed the indication at like 60, and it bounced around a little bit, and they took it live at 40. So from 10 to debut at 40, it was just sort of like, oh no, I can't touch that. And then it went halt up, and halted up over $100, and then, I mean, for about 2 or 3 days, it was incredibly volatile. It kept dropping to like 60 or 70 and then running back up to 90 or 100. I mean, I don't know how you trade that. Eventually, if you got too comfortable trying to time that move, you got killed, because it then one day just fell off and went down to, I forget what it's at now, but it's not a pretty number if you didn't get out then. What is AERC at now? AERC. Okay, it's now at $5.21. So no. Oh, geez. Okay, so now we are seeing. We're gonna miss this if we don't switch our. Oh, come on, E-Trade. So now we see this indication at $4.99. You need to get your price up to like $5.55, or you're going to get left out. So now we are seeing a very different. Now we're seeing some interest come into this. Sell side is up to $5. Okay, executed. We're live at 490 something. Did this go live and I missed it, or what? 475, opened at 5, dropping, coming back up, 550, 530, 550. All right, so we're not getting like a halt show right out of the gate. I kind of expect the people who got allocations to dump. See, that would have been a great play if I had put in at, say, at a 5% discount at 550. Then we would have gotten filled at, no, we wouldn't have. Maybe, yeah, I guess we would have 450. Depends where we put it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that my any open orders I have that I don't want to get in on. So I've got this 375 bid. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that for now. So this is not particularly strong. One of the first boasted low floaters that I haven't seen halt kind of right out the gate. So let's just pull off of this. And let's start thinking about what we want to do. Showing 499. Okay, we're going to start seeing SKYT in a moment here. So we need to kind of try to balance this. HTCR, I wonder if CHG is even going live today, but not a lot of. So what we've got here is we've got the sell wall at $5. This would have to fall before we see a run to 550. And actually the setup is not looking great right now. We did not get a halt either way. Kind of surprised we didn't see that get the $5 open to 550, didn't trigger a halt. I kind of expect this to come down a bit for a while. Not at all the the debut that we were looking for on a low float boasted play. So a little discouraging, but it didn't do anything too violent. Didn't put us in a position to get destroyed if we decided to try something a little risky on a premium, the debut premium. And we haven't seen a move too heavy in one direction or the other at this point. So we're looking at a volume of 825, kind of gotten through, 30, almost to that 30% level on the float. Once we get to that half level on the float, I'm going to turn on, it's not going to help much. CHG, I don't even know if that one's got out of 5 on the dot. I like to let these run a little bit. Even into day 2 is all right with me. I believe that we often see things. Okay, I want to check something on SKYT. Surprised we're not seeing anything there. SKYT. One. Okay. Interesting. SKYT indicating 14. Well, not a whole lot of excitement on either side of these. So, still early in this, but when we see sell side imbalance and dropping, it's sort of not the most, kind of reduces my conviction in the trade. When we have a sell side imbalance below IPO, I start thinking about, do I want to try to undercut this? Do I want to try to not play this at all? Again, very small number of shares though. So if this stays low for the next 8 or 9 minutes, below IPO price, okay, well, maybe it's interesting. I want to go back and check something here. I believe I put the price range in the email. So there's so many here. I've got to do something to make this easier for me to get through on the day of. That was 11 to 13, so it did price out of range. If it opens up at like 11, that's not even in the. Well, that can't be right. They're not going to debut it at $3. If they debut it at $3, I will be very eager to take a shot at that. But I believe that'll turn around. Yeah, not a lot of interest in HTCR. They sort of faked that one out, but not going to dump on day one. There's too much of a possibility that this gets pumped later on and down at $4. It really doesn't take a whole lot for for there to be a run. This is saying $3, and that just can't be. I can't imagine that $3 or $4 on SKYX. That would be really unprecedented. So we're going to see this come up. I'm sure there's just nobody really setting in their orders yet, but that would indicate that a lot of people want to sell, not a lot of people want to buy. Up at 9, it's a weird one. That's pretty tempting to play that at like 6 or 7 though. We're still pretty early. We've got about 7 more minutes before they'll even give it a chance to go live, so no reason to set an entry bid yet. I think we've got to watch it for a little bit. 706. It's really strange setup. The price at 13. Okay, we're seeing more sensible numbers here at the moment. Not getting buy and sell side. The dump and pump play on HTCR wasn't both. Well, Pets was Bo said was buying Pets. That was a direct offering, and it, that's a little bit more like GFAI is now. PLIN is a little bit similar, a little bit different. Pets was a great play. Got in at the IPO, or sorry, right after the direct offering. It dropped as the market kind of tends to sell off direct offerings or any kind of offering. And we got in around 120, 130, and then it came up a little bit. It hit like 230. Then they did a second direct offering, and it dropped right at the closing bell. It dropped from like 220 down to $1, and then slingshot like within 15 minutes or something, ran up to about 8. I think the high was $7 or $8 in the pre-market or in the after hours. So that was a pretty crazy move when Pets ran. But Pets was a direct offering. That wasn't an IPO play. The most recent action on Pets. And yeah, I mean, any of these kind of stealth IPO, stealth setups, you don't want to be holding those for a long time. I think you want to take your profits and get out. SKYX, this is setting up with, we see these really low numbers here. That's similar to what we saw with AERC, but it was even, there we go, 95. It's not enough to make me really want to go big on this, but I do want to just have a little skin in the game. I like everything I kind of heard about this. I'm just not going to go put myself in any kind of pain right now. So say just a little play. If it goes ballistic, we'll make some money. If it drops, then we won't lose a whole lot. Let's see, So these can really get, these can get pushed at any time. Day traders can come in on them at any time. It can be a day 2 run. Especially HTCR has, people in Japan trading it. Time differences sometimes come into play. Okay, SKYX is at 11. SKYX has been kind of coming up. 11, 12. We're still looking at 4 minutes before they can take it live if they decide to. The HTCR is starting to move back up. It's kind of like it's maybe the sellers sold, and now we're looking at more organic movement. I'm adjusting my entry on SKYX. Okay, I'll go with that. You guys play your risk accordingly. These are not super high conviction plays. We're still seeing a lot of these low float IPOs sort of drop before before a day 2 run. We're not seeing, oh, here we go, HTCR making that move up. The level 2 sells at $5. Those are expected. A 10% drop would have gotten me, if I had just left open a 10% drop, that would have gotten me in. Didn't really, I was looking for more of that immediate downward move and then up. So I canceled my order. I don't really want to take on more of a bag here than than just the position I started with. But I like this. If we can get through VWAP, we could see day traders and algos start taking notice here. So that's where we are right now. Got about 2 minutes. Take a deep breath. These low float IPOs are nice because we don't end up spending all day waiting for them to go live. If you've played any of the mainstream, there we go. Here we get a bit of a run. If you played any of the mainstream IPOs with me, you've seen that these can take hours. All right, let's go. HTCR making its move. Let's see if people sell or if it's been sold off. This is nice. I'd like to see a halt at some point. It's been a while since we've been given a halt. If we get a halt, we'll talk about halt strategies during the halt. This is the kind of thing that, let's see, did we get halted? No, not yet. Or we did? No. All right. One thing I like to look at here is this heavy, oh, we did. That must be a halt. Excellent. All right, we got our halt up. So let's keep an eye on SKYT while we talk about halts. So halts are typically 10 minutes on these. Sometimes they're 20 minutes. I don't know how to make much sense of the level 2 data in these, except that when I see a lot of buy volume up above the halt price, so this is halted, that's a good indication. If the volume is actually lower, that is a bad indication. These halts don't have to keep going up. That can be the nexus of the move. But I do like to see halts because this is going to trigger day trader attention. This is going to get other people kind of aware of this. This is also a good time to consider taking out some profits. So if you especially took like a bigger position than you and you felt a little bit, look back, were you uncomfortable when it was down here? Did you start like panicking a little bit and you held on to this point? If you did, maybe start taking some profits out. Maybe take half out of this first halt. It's not a bad strategy, and don't regret taking profits. I have 2 rules. Take profits without regret and don't chase. At this point, I would not buy in after it's already made its move. I think that's a really dangerous strategy to get into something after it's run. You want to be putting yourself in positions, I think in general in the stock market, is you're going to start making money when you start learning to get into plays before they run. If you're always chasing plays and trying to find the thing that already ran and now it's come down a little bit and now you're trying to buy in and try to like hope it like bounces back up again, it's a pretty dangerous approach, and you're going to be balancing a lot of like kind of wins with kind of losses. Whereas if you learn to get in beforehand, you're going to take a lot of wins. And that's where kind of learning to come up with your own ideas. We're playing IPOs, successfully. This is one of the few times where everybody's who's trading retail is on the same level. Nobody's pumping and dumping these. I mean, if you got a huge allocation and you have been pumping this up, I don't know how you know that ahead of time, but everybody's buying at the same time. When I tell you guys I like a play, I haven't taken a position already, and if I've gotten an allocation request, I've disclosed that. But with IPO plays, don't chase. Get in, make your strategy, assess your risk, establish your conviction level, and trade it according to to your hypothesis. If your hypothesis is correct, you just chill out when it opens at 5 and drops to 450. You could add a little bit here, or just like get up to here. But if you find yourself feeling uncomfortable here, a halt is a good time to get out. And the way that you get out of a halt is you set a limit order at whatever price you feel like is worth it to you. If you just want to make sure you don't like lose money, you can say, okay, I'm going to set my limit order at $5. I got in at $5. I'm going to set my limit order at $5. If it opens up at $5.50, you're going to get out at $5.50. So it's a great time to take some profits, pay yourself a little bit, and you can let some ride. You can say, okay, well, I'm happy with, if this opens at, if this does continue upwards, we're going to see it go, likely at least to 550 off the open. If you want a quick 10% win, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great trade. People try to make 10% per year on stock investments. So if you can take 10% in, what have we been here for an hour? Not even an hour. That's a great trade. So don't, never regret taking profits. We are seeing this inch up a little bit. Still have, and we are past the 10 minutes. So this really could go live at any time. This one's a little bit riskier to me. I'm definitely not going to take the same size in terms of shares as I took with Htcr, just because I feel like the downside on this one is, just laws of big numbers and small numbers at $5. Yes, you can lose 50% by it goes down to 250, but falling 50 cents, people see that and they go, okay, well then up 50%. Whereas, from 13, there's a lot of room to fall. And we're seeing a sell side imbalance, not a huge number, but I probably am, I'm feeling, kind of want to undercut it if it's showing a heavy sell side like that. I don't want to be a part of this if it doesn't drop a little bit. So I am happy enough with this to say, let's do order. I'm getting something weird here. Has it started trading? No. Oh, my order got rejected. That's why. Sorry, guys. I'm trading on another screen here, so I've been advised not to show my actual live trades. X, and that's weird. I go kind of low on this. I don't want to be if I get in on a dip, then and miss it if I miss it. So we're seeing a pretty heavy sell side imbalance there. Okay, it looks like HTCR came down out of the halt and is sort of meandering around here at 5, but I don't think this is over yet. I think people are just still sort of dumping their allocations, and I like that we saw some strength here. We did see people bail. That's not unexpected, but if we see some volatility in this stock today, still haven't seen much of a, I mean, this is not a lot of a run one way or another, and I'm okay with holding this into a day 2, possible run. So the sell side here has me a little bit concerned. If I'm doing the 10% move on SKYX, you're looking at 1330 times, that could drop down to like 1197. So if this takes a dive off the debut, maybe I'll take like a 1205 entry. But it's not looking like AERC did. It certainly doesn't have that sky high debut premium baked in yet. So the only thing I really like about this is that it's super low float and the allocations were very small. So I'm surprised that we're seeing that heavy of a sell side imbalance actually. Someone is saying showing 512 resumption. NASCAR All Out. Yeah, so NASCAR All Out, thank you again. I think you have the you have one of the trading desks that we I probably need to sign up for. I think it's Net Zero. That shows the indication of the resumption out of halts. That sounds like a very helpful tool, and I'm meaning to sign up for it. But if you do see that resumption, then what you can do is set your limit order at that price, and you can expect to get your fill there. Okay, so SKYX, this is a lot more shares than we saw with AERC. They must be getting close because at 327, they have a very small number here. The buy and sell orders don't mean a whole lot. We do have people willing to sell at 1275. That was kind of the number I had in mind before. So I think my order keeps getting rejected by, yeah, E-Trade keeps rejecting my SKYX trades. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to even play that one. I like this steady movement by Htcr. This reminds me of our HOUR, which was a little bit of a slow roller, but we've got some sell walls up here, but it's kind of a comfortable trade right now. If you feel like you want to just lock in the win, you can set your stop loss now and say, I was going to say 515, but now you're out. This wasn't a catastrophe off the debut. So use Webull Desktop. You're in Webull catch versus margin. I guess so, but it doesn't really make sense. Can't get SKYX on your platform. Well, that is not an encouraging sign. Whenever we see IPOs that are not available on all platforms, that's been sort of like a bad omen. Obviously, if demand can't show up, then we're not going to see the price go up. So it's always a supply-demand question, and if supply outstrips demand, then that doesn't leave a lot of room for upside movement. I'm not seeing much volatility in either of these, really. Or at least in HTCR, it's been a rather tame debut so far. I like that it's staying above VWAP for now. I can't make a whole lot of sense of which way it's going to go from here, but it is low float and it didn't crash, so that's a good thing. What time does SKYX start? They started pricing at 10:10 a.m., so they can go live at any point. They can go live after 10 minutes of kind of price discovery. Right now, it's gone. It did some weird things. They brought it all the way down to $3, test that, and then picked it up, built it up, and it's been leveled out here, kind of flirting between 11.50, but now and then they brought it up to about 13.50. I do tend to see the kind of the high side that they touch be a little bit of a kind of an inflection point once they start trading. If it breaks through that, things can get really wild, but it oftentimes has a hard time getting through that point. Basically, there were enough sellers at that point and not enough buyers for them to have to bring it down. So now at 12.89, I just don't really like when we see sell side imbalance for the whole time that we've been in this IPO crossing. Cannot place a limit order on SKYX. My orders keep getting rejected on E-Trade. They kind of go in, and then when I try to change them, they get rejected. So some problems here with maybe not enough shares available. I don't know. But when we see that, it makes me want to take a step back and say, let's see how this goes. It has not been a sign of strength for people when people can't buy it, can't buy the IPO. Meanwhile, the SPY is only down 0.3%. Palantir has managed to actually go up. QYLD is essentially break even. Some of the other plays we've been watching, ESCG was one I called out as an Arab, kind of day after Arab. ESCG did a reverse split and dropped, and I stopped myself out before I was able to turn profits, but it's up from about, it was at like 315, 310 when I first called it out, and now it's up at 360. That's nice to see. Somebody, I hope, took some money on that one. HTCR holding that 515 level. I tend to think that the longer that these kind of hang out above VWAP, though I'm not seeing a lot of volume, but I do like it kind of hanging out there. And you never know with these, as long as it can kind of chill, then at some point it can break out. There has been, I'm going to check real quick. We've seen decent volume here for 3 million shares. We've seen 1.92 million shares trade. So could be a little bit of a flag here. Don't know which way it'll go, but at some point you would assume that the initial dip was kind of allocation recipients saying, didn't get the debut premium I wanted, I'm out. They sold off down to here. Then you had day traders, and I can't imagine people are really playing this long investment style, but day traders said, an algorithm said, okay, well, that's a nice drop on a low float IPO we're in. That drove us up into the halt. And out of the halt, we've really just seen consolidation into 515, this wedge. Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah, I think the point being there that when you can't place orders, then you can't think it's going to go up. We can pull HTCR, or maybe we can. I want to just check and see if we're seeing CHG. CHG not showing anything yet. I don't even know if this is going live today. So let's focus on these plays. Okay, 1289, sell side imbalance. Nobody can buy it. No point in getting too excited on this. All right, guys, please subscribe. Please hit the like button. Share this out there with the world. We're trying to get our subscriber count up. We're at about 150 subscribers. Need to get to 1,000 before YouTube will let me have even a couple pennies for ads and that kind of stuff. So I think I can also open up some things like you guys can make little contributions, donations, super likes, things like that. So every little bit helps. Don't think we are making too much money yet today, but if you want to protect yourself from taking a loss on HTCR, it's given you all day to do that. You can even go below VWAP, which is kind of a nice point. You can go below VWAP with a stop loss at 5. If you get a hard candle down, you might have a little bit of slippage, but we do sometimes see these flags do kind of like a dip and run. I don't know what exactly triggers that. It could be algo driven, but we see some patterns that there's a little bit of a dip. Still holding that flag pattern. W&W was the strangest one. Second day runner, halted up twice at the debut, hung out near high day volume. Weaker at debut, at least had a halt up. Yeah, W&W was kind of the first one that made my radar. I started making a thing of researching, and playing the IPOs, and just didn't see W&W, and was like, why didn't I see that one? Went back and here's that dip, and it would have stopped you out if you had put that. Yeah, sometimes that flag of a VWAP works against you, but again, I'm willing to hold on to this for for possible follow-up days. W&W was one of the kind of made me realize that I was maybe intentionally being left out of some of these, and why we adopted the name of the stealth IPO. It's also to keep me from having to call them outright money laundering schemes, because some of the people closer to these deals that have at least given me some color on them don't like to use that word in conversation. So we call them stealth IPOs. W&W was the first one on my radar, and that was after the fact. I mean, it ran to like 130 or 160, just something. It was insane. But we did see other ones that were super ridiculous. Tirx was one that priced at 5, debuted at 16, went up to a halt at 17. It's a 3-hour halt, and then opened for sale at $50. And sitting through that 3-hour halt, I had 1,000 shares in. Was pretty excruciating. I didn't really know what to do with myself. I just said, okay, I will get out wherever this opens. Ended up making like $33,000 on when it opened. I was pretty happy with that one. So I have lost a lot on one debut, but I made a lot more. I mean, substantially more in trading these, especially low float IPOs. I play the mainstream ones too. I've made a lot of money on mainstream IPOs. In a hot market, they're arguably much easier and safer to play. There's the sell-off on HTCR. I'm not really getting nervous at this point. Just going to let it play out. This, to me, hasn't made a heavy move one way or another. I don't think we've really... I don't know if we're going to see the full story on this one today, but it's still really close to the debut price. And if people start selling off, okay, I didn't take such a big position that I'm not going to do any real damage one way or another. Just want to make sure that I have canceled my orders on SKYX, because I don't like what we're seeing here. We've seen a heavy sell side imbalance on SKYX, and we haven't seen any real, and it keeps coming down. And the bigger red flag to me is that it's not available on the trading desk. So that one, I guess I would not be all that happy if I had. First, I was thinking, oh man, I should have, I only got 10% of what I asked for on HTCR. Turns out that wasn't much of a gift. But then thought maybe I would have preferred to have gotten a little bit of SKYX. And one thing to keep in mind is when you have an IPO debut below the IPO price, that's not a bad day trade setup, because people who got their allocations at 14 probably not eager to bag a loss right away. So something I watch for. But with these low float kind of unknown IPOs, it's sometimes a different story. But here we are, waiting for them to figure it out. The trading desks seem to be confused by the SKYX ticker, either rejecting orders or not accepting them, which is not a strong look for an open. We see this coming down to 1190. It kind of looks like it's going to go live pretty soon here. Once this goes live, we'll switch over to the other view. This is the Webull desktop app. I'd like to move over to, I think actually the browser-based app is a little bit faster. And the only downside is it doesn't show the sell side imbalance. So in the pre-debut crossing, I like to watch the desktop app, and then I'll switch over to the browser version in a second. SPY is just about to come green on the day. We've seen strong moves in a lot of the tech stocks. Let's see what else is going on over in the world of mainstream trading. Datadog up 18%. They must have posted earnings. Yep, strong results. So we've had a lot of companies. Seems kind of like the market pulled back over the last few weeks and said, okay, you're guilty until proven innocent. And then when tech stocks, especially the ones that had been beaten down, those that reported strong earnings, they've been rewarded, those at least temporarily, and those that did not have been punished severely. So got, Palantir's got its earnings coming up on the 17th. Got me a little nervous there, but at the same time, some of this action can be attributed to shorts saying, hey, I've taken my money, I've beat down the market while it was kind of weak, and now it's time for me to cover my position. Htcr sort of languishing around. Volume did not follow through much, except it was got a lot of sellers coming out of that halt. That I believe is the IPO allocations. IPO allocations, people who picked up the bottom feed here. But I feel like we see accumulation here, 470, 475, 450. I kind of look for these, I don't know if you really call them support levels, but I look for the signs that people are kind of accumulating these low floats. This is what I look for in the low float debut, or especially the low floats that don't fly. You'll see, or have come way down off a spike, initial spike. We see these kind of like accumulation patterns, and I tend to think that these are. I saw this with. It was the AREB. AREB, when it dropped off of its reverse split, what I was looking for once it baselined was that accumulation pattern. And once I saw it, I said, okay, waited towards the end of the day, put an order kind of up at this part, got it filled. The next morning it had flown, got out with a nice 40 or 50%. It's about 50% win on that one. So SPY is just touching green. QILD just green. Palantir up. Inspira up. Yeah. Guys, I do take long positions in some things. One of the benefits of trading IPOs, or at least watching, I've probably watched almost every IPO. Not every, but probably 95% of the IPOs in the last year and a half. Watch them live, definitely research them, maybe missed one or two. I don't tend to pay a lot of attention to biotechs or bank corps or real estate trusts. Those types of things are not volatile enough to really interest me. But there are some long trades that I like. Those of you who follow me know that I really like Inspira Technologies, IINN. It seems to have been holding well above the $3 level after the recent move off of 225. It was down to 225, 220. For kind of a not day trade, but swing trade, I like the pure shares, the common shares, IINN. For the long trade, because I think this company will do big things towards the end of the year, I've been accumulating warrants. That's IINNW. There's a pretty big spread on those right now, so you either need to just say, okay, screw it, I'm going to pay up and just make sure I don't get left out, or be patient and try to wait for for it to drop down. But that's a good one. AREB making another run. Once we get SKYX live, then I'll go to a grid with more tickers on it. We can stay on for a little while and watch these. HTCR may have sort of topped out here. We'll see if this gets any kind of movement today. Maybe it's going to kind of go to sleep on us, and we'll watch for some action in day two. Day two has been a really solid catalyst for a lot of these. Seems to me that the accumulators sort of build their position on day one. Then we see like a little bit of a sell-off in the morning for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then we see things rip. So who knows? This could be interesting. HTCR, I guess we can safely say this is not a stealth IPO. At the same time, it was they rang the bell on the Nasdaq floor today. So H.C. Wainwright was the underwriter for NVCT, inexperienced with an IPO space. We haven't seen a ton of their IPOs, and not enough to. I think that was not so much of an underwriter-driven pop, so much as day traders and trading groups have just been hitting every low float IPO that kind of, especially those that fall pretty hard, has been subject to a day two pump. And that is my feeling on NVCT, was that we saw it with MTech, and MTech had, and it might have been a little bit that NVCT really was overlooked by everybody. I don't generally play biotechs anyway. And that allowed the accumulators and the pumpers to build a bigger position. It made it more lucrative and more capable for them to kind of squeeze the float while they pumped it. And that's my take on that one. SKYX, they are clearly struggling a little bit to get this out the door. Sometimes I believe, I'm really surprised with 1.5 million shares that they can't balance this and take it live. It could be simply that they priced it at 14 and they really don't want the egg on their face of going live $2 below an IPO price where they already priced it above range. That's a little bit ridiculous. I can't remember the last time that we saw an IPO price above range and then debut. I'm not sure. I'm sure we have. Just maybe didn't make much of an impression on me, but it's not a setup that I like, and it doesn't matter because E-Trade's been rejecting my attempts to place an order. And that is that. So let's just take a look at if CHG. Did anybody take a second look if CHG pulled their IPO? Probably can. This isn't what it looks like usually when they do an IPO. So SKYX. Pull this back up. Now they're testing 14. Okay. And maybe they said, screw it. If we're going to debut at a at a loss, we'll just, and there's a sell. We can't get enough buyers at $11.99. Why don't we just take less volume at 14, or I don't know. That's an odd move, that they could have a heavy sell side imbalance at $11.99 and then bring it up to 14. Usually when there's a sell side imbalance, they have to come the other way with it. But I'm not a fly on that wall, so who knows. Taking a look in the rest of the world. All right, did we go live? No? Oh, we did. Okay. So SKYX went live at 14. It dropped down to 13. It's at 13.38, and there is a huge spread here. That is a little bit abnormal. Move this over here, and we are going to go to the double grid. And we are not seeing a lot of volume in SKYX. Not a lot of action either way. You've got some pretty big sellers here. It's definitely moving the wrong way if you bought in at 14. I don't know how you could have bought in at 14. My trade desk was not supporting it. We have really no support over here, and we have a lot of sellers here, which either means people are buying in at the market price or there's just no interest in this. So we got to say, sit back, relax, and see what happens. I am not particularly compelled to jump into this unless we see like a really heavy drop. The thing to keep in mind is that this is a really low float. Like 1.65 million shares is so low that at some point you got to expect day trading groups to move in and say, okay, well, we'll take a shot at this. This kind of looks like it's gonna head to a halt. There's a website for these halts, and it's rebounding. Blah 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 blah. It's NASDAQtrader.com has the halts, and you can see what time they halted. So HTRC halted at 10:19. You can then expect it to resume. It's either 5, 10, 20, 30-minute halt. So when I see a halt on one of these IPOs, I generally tend to expect it to be 10 minutes. But at 5 minutes, I'm going to be paying attention. Once I see that 5-minute mark get crossed, then I'm going to be looking for that 10-minute halt, and that's where you really want to be, alert and managing your moves. We are seeing Htcr, not a ton of volatility, but we are seeing us approach that 3 million mark. A lot of times we'll see that as an inflection point where things start to move one way or another. It obviously doesn't mean that all 3 million shares have been bought or sold. It just means that there have been 3 million shares moved. Probably the same shares moved multiple times. And just one more thing to keep in mind. Seeing a little bit of a tightening in the range here. Like I said, I don't believe that we're going to have just, to me at this point, HTCR, if I had to bet up or down, I would like to think it will go up because everybody who bought the IPO paid $5 for it. So less than $5, why would you be selling for a loss at this point? It's the first day. Other people, maybe they bought up here, day traders hoping for a move up. They got a move down. They're probably also, we just haven't seen a lot of, there's only a small number of traders who are, if they picked up down here, that are in the green position right now. So this is a much scarier chart to me. We saw this struggle to pick up buyers even down at 11.99. We saw heavy sell side imbalance. So that tells me that, on one hand, people who got the IPO at 14, this is bad enough, and there's enough downside where they maybe say, okay, we'll cut my losses. Or maybe they're saying, well, I'm not going to book a loss right now. As far as, I do watch the RSI here. The RSI on a kind of downward trend or a downward open can stay down here below RSI 30 for a while. If I were to try to swing this, I would look for it to kind of touch RSI 30 or give me a strong indication that it's going to break that. We often will see a recovery play at some point, but again, without knowing for sure that this is tradable on all desks, I don't see, it's a dangerous play to me. People can start panic selling at some point if they don't see an upside. Not a lot of shares available to sell. Still a bit of a gap here, bit of a spread. All right, this is what I mean by the accumulation levels is when I look at this, I see one person, maybe one buyer here trying to pick off a bottom, but the rest it's there's not a lot of traders saying, not a lot of attention on this yet. And I don't know if that's just the result of trading desks not supporting this, or this not being on people's radar. But at some point, if it continues dropping, I expect that trading groups will say, okay, well, this is ripe to be, pumped on day 2. Whereas over here, we see kind of someone's buying up some shares here, got another sort of lurking buy order down here. And then we see this cluster down here saying, hey, if this comes back down to this level, and I expect we see this sort of throughout the day, this kind of 2 levels of, of accumulation. And this is often what they look like. A few thousand shares clustered, below in case we get a drop down, they kind of take a little bit more, take a little bit more. And what that does is that puts that in position to control a bit of the float or a significant enough of what's actually being traded for them to pump it on day 2. So HTCR, this is a Bosted play. This is, Japan. I'm in at 1258. Good job. You may have picked off the bottom there. But these, day 2 runs are in play these days. Okay, so we're going to assume that CHG, I'll just go see if E-Trade is even aware of its existence. E-Trade is pretty slow today. CHG. Yeah. CHG is not even on the... yeah, not showing up on E-Trade either, so we're going to have to assume that that one is not today. Oh, well, CHG wasn't all that exciting to me anyway. And unfortunately, it kind of turns out that neither of these are really moving hard in either direction yet. So I'm going to hang out for a little while. We can, if anyone wants to throw some tickers out there for the group, we can pull them up on the screen and take a look. I will open up the 4-grid view, and we'll put 2 more on watch. So why don't we take a look at SOPA? This is a stealth IPO. They did an offering a few days ago. Go back to like the 15-minute charts. We can see what happened there. This was the day of the offering, and it fell off and then jumped up a bit here, then jumped up in the morning, and I waited till pre-market here and took a bite and got out up here. And since then, it fell off pretty hard. Oh, no, sorry. This was just a pump, then the offering, and then the drop here. Hour, okay. This is one we played live. It was one of the first ones we did. Hour, okay, at this point, you're just looking at the volume's just too low to play this. It is starting to baseline here. I like to call it the dental zone, 230. It's your teeth hurt. That's where you can start adding something here. It hasn't gotten that low yet, so it might be a little early. What you are going to want to look for is the QPX on this one, the quiet period expiration. So there is a site for this. I think that's coming up. So if you can accumulate a little position before the quiet period expires, that sometimes works out for a good play. What happens is after 40 days after the IPO, the underwriters and the not seeing them on the list, but they might be coming up. The underwriters and the other GFAI. The underwriters and the other, the insiders, the company itself can start making press releases after 40 days. So this was January. It's already getting pretty close to that QPX, and this is sort of baseline. If you wanted to take a swing play, just be sort of safe with it. I don't know what kind of numbers they could come out with. Or, it's not like one of the biotechs that I like NRSN. NRSN has a, they're presenting at some conferences next month. It's way down. It's actually further along in their clinical phases than some of the others. So down here at 175, I've been adding a little bit here and there. I don't see it having a whole lot of downside. And in March, they present at a couple of conferences. Won't take much. This has a 6 million share free float, and any kind of positive headline can send this up 20-30% or more. So that's the kind of play I like. Hour, not bad. I'd like it more at 240. This could fall down below $2 in my opinion, but they have QPX coming up, so so that's interesting to me. GFAI, this is one that I called out because this at one point was a bit of a stealth move, and so we see there. When I see this kind of stuff, it's just like, all right. I guess when they opened, Maybe they did a ticker change. I don't know. They had such. I mean, it's really weird to see something only have a volume of 167 shares in like the first few days of trading, and then as soon as it really did open for trading, it. I don't know. It must. There's something weird there. That's something weird. Okay, so it kind of just it's more or less fallen since its debut. It then had one day where it spiked a bit back here in October, made like a 26% run. But this is just one of those weird Chinese stocks that has had a couple spikes, but has never really done anything. And then they did an offering that dropped the price. It was here. They did an offering that just didn't make a whole lot of sense. I can't remember the exact details of it, but when I see these weird, relatively low float recent Chinese IPOs make an offering, I start thinking, and then drop. I start thinking, well, if you believe the stealth IPO setup, which is money laundering, the key tenet of that hypothesis is that the way that you would move money out. Let's say you have an account in China, and you're some rich Chinese millionaire or billionaire. You have like a couple $100 million in China, and you want to get it out of China because China is starting to crack down on the wealthy, because you want to spend it in the Western world because you've sent your kids to Canada or America for college and you're trying to like transition your way out of there. Well, it's very difficult to get money out of China. You can't just wire transfer $200 million to Bank of America from Bank of China. They won't let you do that. So one way you could do it, though, is to set up a trading account in China and set up a trading account in, you know, the Western world outside of China, and do an IPO or do a direct offering with a company that you own or you have some contacts with, and you would take those shares of the IPO or of the direct offering and give them either incredibly cheaply or however you can give them to that account outside of China. Now, nobody else wants this stuff because most of the time these companies are crap, like Pets. So with Pets, it was so obvious because that company was such garbage, and the share price was $2, and the direct placement was like 69 cents. So why would you do a direct placement for some garbage company? And with warrants, it was like 34 cents. So it was almost like 15% of the stock price. Why would you do that? Well, the only explanation that I could come up is where you're trying to cheaply give a bunch of shares to somebody outside of the country so you can spend a lot of money buying those shares when no one's looking. And basically, for every share that is sold by that account outside of the country, at a higher price than they paid, even if they're selling to somebody else, while you're selling your side, you're basically moving money from the Chinese side out to the account outside of China, and that is how money laundering works. So we've seen that in a couple plays now. We saw that with another one. I feel like they might be doing that as HAP. The other reason that I'm suspicious of these is because they are typically done by the same underwriters that we've seen do these stealth IPOs. They're Univest, they're Bosted, they're Network One Financial. So they're the same underwriters, kind of like the same scum pond, the same usual suspects, and the same clients. So when I see a company, this one, HAP, was Univest. They're the ones that did TKLF. If you look at their, the deals that they've done, they are all shady Chinese companies. GFAI, I can't remember who did this one, but it was, or I couldn't find who it was, but the whole setup looks kind of suspicious to me. So that's why, and if I see that they're way down, I kind of go, okay, well, I got in on GFAI at 69 or 70 cents. Okay, I'm not taking a huge position anyway. But whereas Pets, I took a pretty big position. I was so convinced of that one. But you be patient, pick off some down here, and just let it sit there for a while. You can take your money out anytime you want, pretty much. Maybe take a little loss if you have to, if you need the money for something. But don't put money you can't afford to lose on these, and just let them sit, let them sit, let them sit, and eventually we tend to see, we saw yesterday some volume came in, so spiked up to 74. Could be front loading, could be kind of accumulating their position, but I like to just sit on these, and then one day if they just blow up, you take your profits, you say thank you, and you move on to the next play. So a couple things, GFM had a couple of price targets. Really hard to say. Although I would recommend we've seen some, when the breakout move comes, it's time, in my opinion, we saw with PLIN kind of a steady increase right off the offering. Whereas these, to me, and I look back at the daily charts, it's like these pumps are 1 day pumps. So I'm not gonna, if we get a day where all of a sudden this jumps to like $1.20, I'll probably just say, okay, well, now I take my profits. HAP, same thing. I mean, you're looking at something that, these spikes, they don't really like hold for more than 1 or 2 days. If you want to give it a second day, but unless there's a real catalyst, like some real news behind it, I don't really have price targets so much as I say, look, when they make their move, I'll take my money. Okay, SKYX is starting to make an upside move. But again, without knowing if any trading desks are supporting it, I see no reason to get into this. You've got pretty low volume overall, whereas with not a lot of volume here either. I think we're going to see this sort of baseline out here at about 480, 470. And if you wanted to add a little bit to your position, maybe wait till the end of the day and see if this trails off a little bit. If this trails off, then I kind of like it for a day 2 run. This to me feels pretty comfortable for a day 2 run. I'm not in any rush to go bag a loss at this point. Over here on SKYX, a lot of times we see these run back up to VWAP, but again, I'd like to, if we see things baseline, this to me is like, we see a lot of times like 3 or 4 levels down. So this to me is 1 level right here. Then we have a second level starting to form here. It's going to need to drop another level or 2 before I feel like this could be something that is interesting for an overnight pop. Over here, same thing. All right. Notice the performance, low float IPOs with warrants. Yeah. Warrants do get sort of priced in even right off the debut. So if we see an IPO, a low float IPO that prices at $5 with warrants, those warrants are usually going to be valued at like 70 or 80 cents, or even $1. We're going to see it debut at like $4. So it's not just that the IPO itself was, it's that when it debuts, they're already factoring in the cost of the warrants. So you have to take that into consideration when you're saying, it debuted at 20% down. It's like, well, no, it wasn't 20% down for the people who got the warrants. You also can't assume that, now they're going to sell as soon as it hits that. It definitely skews things a little bit. I generally find that when there are warrants assigned to the units, it kind of diminishes the initial volatility in general. So I don't love it when they have those. It also kind of means that the IPO wasn't that strong to begin with. When the underwriters, in the company, part of the reason that they need to include those warrants is to entice investors to buy the IPO. They're going around trying to get people to buy up the shares that are available. And if they can't get enough buyers, they have to incentivize them with warrants. And, it's not a great strength, but there are ways to turn those warrants into more money. Certainly, I am buying up warrants on Inspira, on IINN for the long play. And the math on those works out kind of like if you like Inspira for kind of a short scalp, we got HTCR breaking VWAP. That's a nice move. If you like, so let's take Inspira Technologies, for example. I'll pull that one because I like this stock so much and I have a big position and I've made a ton of money on I traded this like 3 times, I think. I think I traded the IPO. I had a huge position that I got out of going into this spike right here. See, this was QPX. Basically, it was not 40 days, but this dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped and dropped. And then they had a headline and it just blew up. And that's what you might be looking for in, say, Hour. Except with Hour Loop, I don't know what the catalyst will be when they are basically like an Amazon. They basically sell stuff on Amazon and on their website. So earnings, maybe? I don't know. That worked for, what was it yesterday? MITQ and IFBD, I believe. Both yesterday ran on good earnings numbers. So if Hour has an earnings report coming up, maybe you play that. But with Inspira, we have lots of catalysts. We have signing distribution deals. We have FDA approvals. We have new board members. There's a lot of opportunities here. This one I think was just no, this was also a contract. We had one day it was just here, it was a short squeeze or something. They ended up on some article about short squeezes. Here was another contract, American distribution, and that kind of brought it out of the doldrums of 215, 220. I was adding pretty heavily down there, and then it brought us back to where we're kind of seeing some stabilization here at above $3. It feels like short sellers have backed off of it. Some investors are accumulating here. I know a lot of people that like this name, they're buying up, kind of adding steadily to their position here. But if you do the math here and you look at IINN versus IINNW, if you believe, like I do, that this is going to $20, $30, once they get FDA approval towards the end of the year for their core device, if you do the math here, okay, let's say it goes to $10. Well, IINN will be basically a 200%. If we say, okay, well, if it's about 333, it's like a 200% gain if this goes to $10. Well, the warrants are exercised at $5.50. So if this goes to $10, the warrants will be worth at least $4.50. So from 70 to 450, you're talking about what, 550% gain? So the warrants for me, to me, in a lot of these situations, if you really like the company and you're not just trying to flip it, warrants expirations are 5 years from the date of the IPO. So the IPO was back in August. So August 2026, you got plenty of time for those warrants. There is no forced redemption as I understand it, and the redemption price is $5.50. I know that about $9 or $10 million worth of warrants were exercised on this spike right here. Which put cash into the company's pocket, which is, I guess, a good thing if you want the company to survive without having to raise more money. They are pretty well funded. They have like something like $20 or $22 million in cash on hand at this point, with another, do that math, 7.8 minus 516. That's how many warrants are still unredeemed. So they can still raise quite a bit of money if they can get their share price up just with the warrants. The FDA approval process for hardware devices is much easier than like pharmaceutical drugs. So, and this has a direct application to COVID. So we could wake up any day and have news that the FDA is going to fast track that. That would be a big catalyst. Certainly at this price, I mean, their market, they have $370 million in contracts contingent on FDA approval, and their market cap is $24 million. I mean, those contracts are spread out over 7 years, but still almost $400 million of contracts just for Spain, Portugal, Eastern Europe, and 6 US states. So they could be a buyout target. I mean, I can see they're saying that the total addressable market is $20 billion. And that they're aiming, to get, a $500 million revenue. As I understand, that's per year. The device does have a disposable element to it. So if they can hit those numbers, then a buyout at 200 million puts the share price at something like $20 something per share. 500 million would be like what, $40-50 a share. So they could be a buyout target. Anyway, point being that the warrants on these, if you like something for a long play, which is something for a long hold, take a look at that. Do you have details on warrants? GFAIW. I saw that. Again, what I don't like about GFAIW warrants is, okay, if we get that spike, I think someone filled me in, that might be you on the Reddit group, that the warrants are redeemable at $1.30. So it's something that you like. If you're gonna like day trade or scalp warrants, the strategy that I've seen that tends to work is that when things halt, like when the shares halt, the warrants don't. So when you first see that halt, go buy the warrants and then ride that kind of upstream on the warrants. Otherwise, like warrants become illiquid very quickly and become something that have, once the initial hype dies down, you're not, you look at the warrants here, went to 290, which is, but the price of the warrants before was even higher than what they are now, compared to the share price right before that run was down at 225. So to me, I guess the warrants are something you buy more for, like, do you really believe in the company long term and you want to be in a position to optimize your gains when that eventual run comes along. So for the sit, wait, and hold on something you expect to just be a day trade, I don't like them as much. So GFAI, not as interesting to me as just being in the common shares, but maybe I'm wrong. Look here, it went, they popped pretty hard, so maybe that is an interesting play. No, that's GFAI. Let's see the W. All right, I guess they were at 84 cents, but at $1.30 redemption means that if you're in it at 17 cents, now you need it to go to $1.47 before, like, it's worth buying the warrant instead of the share. I don't know. Bottom for a week, blah blah blah. Yeah, pretty big spread though. I mean, you're giving up 33% just on the spread. If you can get someone to bite, okay, I guess if you can pick them up. My guess is that there's some hidden bids in here. Someone's willing to buy a lot at basically nothing. So here's that kind of level 1 consolidation on SKYX. There's the level 2. Volume on this has just been anemic. Volume on HTCR has not been all that impressive, but we're still hanging out at the $5 range. I don't love that for the prospects of today. We might see maybe a run into power hour. Who knows? It could get pushed at any time, but I think that there's just not a lot of attention in these today relative to some of the IPOs that we've seen, although day 2 has been more of the main event on these recently, so maybe that trend continues. I'll go back to Benzinga for a second, just take a look at what is running today. DRMA, I believe their quiet period recently expired. Let's take a look at DRMA. Okay. Fell off yesterday. Let's see if they released a headline. They announced a public offering 2 days ago, and that dropped the price. So it's a pretty tough play. I mean, if you started accumulating down here at $1.45 or something, you're not even whole yet. You're hoping it continues to run. So I don't know what the move is on that one. Not particularly sort of spiked on what? Whispers of nothingness. Just fell off. Maybe just low float, big drop. Someone pulled it at 4 a.m. Nothing too exciting there. AREB, we were talking about that earlier. IRNT. I think this was one of those SPACs that got the original kind of SPAC short squeeze. Yeah, it is. Yeah, this was a SPAC that got squeezed before the redemptions. I guess there were a whole bunch of shorts on the redemption period, or going into it, and then everybody redeemed their shares, and the float got constrained, and then day traders pulled a short squeeze on it. That was pretty wild. I remember watching that. I guess it's pretty much gone down to what it is really probably worth, and now it got some kind of run on. They got a new security contract, so maybe a bunch of shorts plus people got a lot of hype before, revisiting their old traps. But my guess is this ran last night and then continued this morning. Interesting. So yeah, Benzinga News, Benzinga Pro. These guys are great. Catch me on Benzinga every Monday to review IPO trading. We go over what worked in the week before and talk about what's coming up in the week ahead. 12 is right. Okay. And I like their scanner and their news feed. They have a cool Squawk Box thing. It's a little bit annoying sometimes, but it kind of calls out the news as it comes, and that can be really helpful. If you can get these news headlines within the first kind of 1 or 2 minutes, you can get in before everybody else does. But someone's funky in the app today. But the headlines can be, you can sit here all day. Don't want to trade every headline, but you can definitely, if you're looking for trade ideas, if you're looking for what's moving, this is a great tool that's not prohibitively expensive. Have a referral link on the website. If you go to ipowarriors.com and use that link, I will get a little bit of commission if somebody buys something. But otherwise, we're looking at probably winding this session down. What time is it? It's 6:30. How many people are watching? I've got 30 people here. If you guys want me to stay on this and keep talking, I'm happy to answer a few more questions here. If we don't see anything move in the next 7 minutes, I'll probably sign off at 6:30. Maybe go to 6:40 just to make it a full 2-hour video. If you haven't already, please tell your friends about this. Spread the word. Help get this out there. Certainly, the more people that contribute, the more valuable this becomes to the community. I know it's a little bit counterintuitive, or maybe not even counterintuitive. Maybe there is some logic to the fact that if everybody buys in on a low float early, we end up doing what we did with CDU and put ourselves in a bad spot. But I do know that we're starting to get the attention of some bigger sort of financial people in the world. And on one hand, that's exciting. On the other hand, it's a little scary, but ultimately what I'm trying to do is build a community here, educate people as to what I see in the IPO world. It's not just for IPO day trading. This is building your index of knowledge in terms of the stock market. The more tickers you have in your mental index, the more aware you are of what's moving, what might move. And there is a ton of volatility in IPOs and recently traded IPOs. They get a lot of moves on sympathy plays. They're eager to announce new contracts. The market still doesn't quite know how to value them. So you have an opportunity to get into getting into positions before the market does. And when you hear that EVs are hot and you're like, oh, what are the recent EV IPOs? Maybe they're down and it'll catch a sympathy move on this. That's a move you can take. The catalyst, if you have news feeds or RSS readers or alerts set up with Google News for some of the tickers and some of the companies you like, you can get that news before other people recognize what it is. I remember when Inspira first made its huge run, I saw, I was already in pretty big, but when I saw that headline, Inspira signs, distribution deal with it's like $170 million contract for Spain and Portugal. And I saw the first kind of signs in pre-market that it was starting to move up a little bit. And I was very aware. I was on top of things. I was ready to, to trade it that day. So, and that's not just these low float ones. I mean, the big names as well. We talked about, one of the ones we talked about was one of the only mainstream IPOs that went live this year. And that was Credo, CRDO. One of the things we said was, okay, well, the market's super weak now and they're going live. It's probably a pretty strong company. So at $11, it IPO'd at like 12 or 13 after pricing at 10. The price range was 10 to 12. It debuted at 13 and dropped down to 11. And I didn't have any spending power available and certainly not anything to sit around on. But I said, like, look, this is pretty safe play down here at like $11. This is a weak market, a company that's strong enough and confident enough that their investors, BlackRock was one of the committed to buying a big share of the IPO. And I said, once the market kind of stabilizes and warms up, I bet this goes up. And from $11 now it's at 15. So IPO trading is not just about the IPO debut. There are opportunities to be taken just within the days, weeks, months afterwards. And then, 6 months later, we have the lockup period expiration. That's a time when strong stocks often pull down a little bit. And that might be an opportunity to take, an even longer position. So what you're also doing is we, share the research from this and, learn about the companies. You're kind of getting to know something on the day that it's born. And by doing that, you're able to trace the history. I can look at so many of these IPOs and say, okay, well, and it really helped. I mean, I was interested in this company, Docs, made a lot of money off the IPO, and we're looking at. I remember we're talking about it in the chat group, and it ran up to 110. That's crazy. It was like, wow, and we all sold out like around here, and then it dropped down to here. To I think not 80, and people are asking me, Matt, do you think it's a good time to buy in? I said, I don't think so. I think the IPO price was 40. Now it's still up 100%. There's still a lot of room for this to come down, and it wasn't, and now that turned out to be right. The market corrected. It came way back down. Maybe it runs a bit here. Again, I didn't have spending power here, but down at 39, 40, it's kind of like, wow, that's a there's very little downside when you remember that the IPO price was 40 or debuted at 41, and now it's down below that. That's an interesting time if you like this company to get in. A little risky going into earnings, but earnings, it made sense during COVID lockdown. People are using the app that all the physicians use for telemedicine more than Teladoc even. That would have been a great entry too. Another one, I got in pretty big position right off they did a direct listing. Another helpful thing to know about a company that you learn about when you play the debut, or at least study the company. And we bought this I think it opened at 64. Yeah, 64.50. Tiny little dip to recovery. But I held on to it. I sold part of my position, I think up around here, kept holding on to it, saying, no, this is the future. This is the metaverse. And then when Facebook did its like meta change, and metaverse was like everything in the news for a week or so, it ran up to 140. And I said, this is way too hot. This news will blow over. The downside is 100. You remember the history of these things. And I took profit, I think, between 120 and 130 in a couple of sells there. It pulled way back down. And if you were looking for dip buys and you see something like this is a direct offer or direct listing. So there was no IPO debut premium. They just sold it without raising money, without allocating shares to anybody. They just started selling it. Once it dip like below that, it's like, okay, well, this is probably a bottom. And if you got in, I mean, when you saw 55, you must have, if you wanted to take a position here, you must have said, okay, that's a good time to get in. Now we've had, it's come back up to 70. This has, from here, could go either way. It's a really loved stock. Parents' kids are always bugging them about it. But it's just kind of my take on why studying IPOs is not just about the debut play. It's about just initiating your kind of research and mental indexing of a company. Excel sheets. I don't have Excel sheets. I do have watch lists in Webull, and I kind of categorize my plays there. The thing, they say trade what you know. My long positions I've reduced everything. I got out of a lot of profits in November last year. I just felt like the market, especially because I tend to, I'm a software developer, web developer. I tend to understand the technology sector and recognize that there was going to be a big pullback. So I got out of, and I had a bunch of Chinese stocks, and when those started getting kind of under pressure, I sold out of those in like August. So unfortunately, the things that I know, or the industries that I feel like I understand better than others, than other industries, not other people, are not the most loved, pets in the adoption center right now. But that's a good buying opportunity. I've been concentrating my buying on Inspira, especially when it was down to 215, 220. I loaded up a big position there. And I like the technology. I like the board. I like the advisor board that they've set up. I feel like there's less downside than upside, and I feel like the upside is tremendous there. So I've really been concentrating my accumulation there. I feel like that is one of the most unique setups in the market right now. The other things that I'm watching, though, are kind of these weird Chinese plays where I feel like, I really like setups where I don't feel like the downside is all that tremendous and the upside can be, something crazy. Right now, I don't feel like a lot of people are investing for the long term. I think maybe in the last week, we started seeing people start to build some positions. Shorts got a little bit frightened off. We all knew that CPI data was coming out today, and it looks like the market's turning down a little bit. Sometimes the CPI reactions are not immediate. In fact, a lot of times, if it's negative CPI data, we've seen things fall off for about 2-3 days, and day 3 was actually the day to start buying. We didn't have such a strong reaction today, which is promising. I think the market sort of said, okay, it's a little worse than we thought, but we knew that already, and already things got sold off. And last time it got sold off, people bought in, and I missed the opportunity to buy the dip. So I'm gonna buy this dip. We saw this dip at 9:30, kind of bottomed out at 9:15. Then again, it's a bit of a sell off at 9:30, but right away people came in and said, okay, I'm going to take this. And shorts didn't really get a chance to put option, to buy puts before it had already started running up, and then they must have had to close. I don't know, or they put those, they bought their short plays yesterday before the close and closed them. So, yeah, the point is the market did not just crap all over itself immediately, and that is an encouraging thing. We might actually see some real IPOs debut in the next few weeks, which would be nice. I think that when we see mainstream IPOs debut coming out of a cold market, we tend to get more attractive prices for retail traders. I'd love to see some bigger names come. I think Reddit is scheduled to do an IPO, which would be really interesting just to see how kind of the mother of the old Wall Street bets game stock phenomenon, kind of the birthplace of the meme stock, if that can't run, or if, people are saying, oh, they're going to have to start doing advertising to appease that investors, it's like, well, none of that might matter at all if if the Reddit train jumps on board and picks up momentum, and that one would be very interesting. I think Mobileye from the Intel spinoff, that would be a pretty interesting one. And it's been so long since we've had, not just a mainstream IPO like we had TPG Group. TPG Group, that debuted at 33. It's kind of been up and down, but it's just a solid financial firm. GFS, that was a little bit before we had this extreme dip, but that's done really well since the IPO as well. Again, IPO it dropped off day one, bottomed at 44, about 44.50, and then when we saw it reach down below that, that was a great time to load up. We knew it was a strong company. We knew that this reaction had nothing to do with the company's performance, everything to do with the market. I bet almost every solid IPO in the last 6 months dropped off and bottomed here and has since made a recovery. So another one that I've been trading is Sentinel One. I like this company because it's a solid company, and it's just getting hit because the market, again, we got this, what was this? January 28th. I bet January 28th. There's the bottom. That was actually, this one bottomed a little bit earlier, but it kept hitting 41, and I just kept riding 41 to 44, 41 to 44. Now it's kind of pulled out, and the IPO price, I think, was 46. 46, exactly. So helps if you have kind of a good memory for numbers. I tend to. So do I think AUST finally goes tomorrow? Yeah. I don't know. It's not a great sign that whatever that one was, didn't go live today. I think Htcr just has enough. I think Bosted has enough punching power to bring anything it wants to live whenever it feels like it. And SKYT, they seem pretty determined to get this one out the door. But these were not, these weren't, this was just okay. The accumulation still down at 480 and 470. If this falls off, then we haven't really seen much volume at all. So I don't know about a day two run. I kind of feel like the accumulators want that opportunity to get the premium, but I like that it hasn't tanked or moved. I think we're set up for a possible run tomorrow. Maybe the Japanese traders come online and the Japanese come online and say, oh, that's interesting. I guess it's like a holiday tomorrow. February 11th is a holiday in Japan. So, who knows? It feels to me like I'm willing to let this, given that we've seen it pretty stable here for a low float IPO. Let's see if this gets some action at some point. I like that we're not deeply in the red. We're not down at like 385, 380, hoping to let go of this bag. There's not really any warrants involved. So this could just, this seems still due for a run. I feel like almost every, in low float IPO land, every dog has his day or her day. I don't know what to say about that. But here we have SKYX. This to me really is starting to look like, accumulation at 1070. Okay, let's think about this for a second. Accumulation at 1070. We've only had 600,000 shares traded. Nothing moving. 1085, 1075. E-trade would not be moving like goddamn snail here. I don't know if it's because I'm streaming or what, but E-Trade is not particularly friendly to me. Okay, I'm going to take a little position at 10. I'm going to take half a position. Still a little early. I want to give myself room to possibly step into a little more. I feel like we can see it's not 230, not even close to 230 yet. This is so low right now. So I like this. I really like this one for a day two run with this kind of open. This is exactly what we see. This is exactly the kind of setup that leads to day two pops. 1.65 million shares. IPO'd. The price was 14. And they basically said, we are not going to take this live for anything less than 14, which is ridiculous. But that's what they decided to do. It was indicating at 11.99 with a sell side imbalance, and they jacked it up to 14 to take it live at the IPO price so they can, I don't know, keep their record book clean, look good on paper. But it was not a pretty debut. It dropped hard into the first level. I call that level 1 down. This is level 2 down. This is level 3 down. And this is level 4. So level 4 down, there's still room for a lower. I mean, this could drop to 7. I'm not taking a big position. I'm going to maybe put $1,000, a couple thousand, maybe $2,000 now. And I'm down already. This could drop further. I don't. And now the support level, the accumulation is down at 933. So I jumped the gun a little bit, but I think I'm not going to hurt myself too badly. And I really feel like this is the setup that people like to see for, if you're a day trader or an algo that plays the day two run, I'm going to wait a little bit longer before I add anything more. I've given myself room. On these kind of plays, don't go, okay, well, now I'm going to buy, if your limit, full position for you is 1,000 shares, don't buy 1,000 shares right here. You buy like 100 shares, 200 shares. And if that's all you get, if all of a sudden it just spikes up, you go, okay, well, I got something. And, didn't time it perfectly, but timing it perfectly is a rare event. What I'm really trying to see is where is this baseline still hasn't broken out significantly over RSI 30. So it has been oversold all day. That day two pop. If you guys watched, I think we did this here, KSCP. This one. This to me kind of looks like KSCP. Nightscope. Nightscope had 4 million share float. Debuted at a premium. This was all over YouTube and CNBC. Got nothing but retail traders into the IPOs. I understand it. And on the day that it debuted, it was not available on a lot of trading desks. It debuted I think they priced it at 12. Or the IPO was priced at 10. I think that's right. And it opened at 14.44. And what did it do? It just dropped. And if we go and look at, say, the 1 minute for comparison, let's just kind of remind ourselves what the setup looks like. Because if I'd done this before, I bought in at 10.85, I probably would have reminded myself that I could wait a little bit longer to start. But if this does what I think it might do, it won't matter. So, this is day one. And look what it did. This was ugly. But remember, it priced at 10, and it dropped through one halt, 2 halts, 3 halts. It's like 4 halts. 4 halts down to 484. Baselined all day. Then kind of people gave up at the end. And that is what I said I should have done, but I'm afraid it might. Okay, so the reason, okay, so SKYX moving up a little bit. We never know when the pop could happen. I think HTCR is gonna fall off here, unfortunately, but I think we're okay for. I want to be in it for a day 2 run at this point. Might add if we see it die into the close, but we see this boom down here. Turn off the charts. See this? We saw this die out to 591. This was a night scope. But then what happened? Next morning, someone bought up the, whatever was kind of laying out there. Someone bought it up. And then day 2, a little bit of a dip, but kind of nothing happening. And then, what happened here? Boom. Up from basically 7 to 12, but wait, folks, that's not all. Into a close at like 16, and then a peak at 27, and day 2, again, 24, 27.50. I mean, this thing caught fire. Why? Low float. Someone accumulated. It wasn't tradable on all platforms on day 1. Okay, and SKYX falling further. I was right that I was wrong. Shouldn't have gotten in so early. Just let this fall out for the day. I don't think we're going to see it run too quickly. Huge spread there. Look at that. 1041 to 1073. Accumulation is way down here. This could get bad. Wondering if I should maybe. Yep, 1041. Oh well. Looking for that day 2 run, looking for that move, dramatic move. And actually, I'm looking for that on both of these. So I might average in a little bit more on HTCR, lower price point by a lot. Not a lot of movement on either way on these. Definitely no upward movement on SKYX, which makes me think that we're due for some kind of rally. But volume is a few thousand shares. It's just not moving. People are bailing. There is no short pressure on these. There generally aren't shares available to short. So you're a little bit safe in that regard. If there were, you can assume that people would be sensing the weakness and just selling this down to nothing. But that's kind of what we're looking at here. So 14, what did it hold down? Pushed it. Yeah, that was crazy. Brutal drop. AST. No reason to feel like AUST will ever go live, but maybe gold gets some attention in this market enough to at some point. Like, I mean, these companies aren't sitting around and not operating as businesses while they organize their IPOs. So there is kind of a point at which AUST is going to be like, geez, we have like good news to share. Maybe they get a permit to start digging for gold, and then things get that would be a kind of interesting to get a catalyst before you went IPO. But at some point, they've been talking about it since October last year. At some point, they're going to go live and have already accomplished something as a business, you would think. But without funding, I don't know how they start digging their mines. But it sounds like they're not quite ready for that anyway. So on deck tomorrow, they took they took Sky, and they moved it to today. So I don't know if that leaves us with a lot of interesting IPOs for tomorrow. AUST, DRCT, those have both been rescheduled a few times. JUNS just doesn't. It's a biotech that's also been rescheduled. VIVK is tomorrow. This is a reverse split uplisting for a company that basically cleans up oil spills and such. Or they go into contaminated sand, bring out the hydrocarbons, and turn them into petroleum products. They're operating in Kuwait and Utah. They don't really have very good financials, and I'm not sure what the angle is here. Somebody looks like, the maybe some front runners. It's a 30-1 split though, so the IPO offering, or the offering, is like priced at 450 to 650, so at 25 cents a share for okay, 25 cents times, I mean, 25 times 30 would be 750. So I don't know if that's, I don't know what that says exactly, except that at 39 cents times 30, you'd be looking at 1170. So getting to buy, an uplisting for 650 based on that price looks really good. Based these prices, 30 cents, it's still pretty generous to get, $9 stock for 650 would be a good deal. So it's one of the few direct or whatever public offers. I think it's still on Webull, so go ahead and make an allocation, although I expect the price to drop. And recently these reverse split uplistings have yielded a tanking stock that I don't know why you wouldn't just wait. If we see that same phenomenon occur by that dip, I will be watching it for that play, not for the trying to get in early. SKYX. So that's another one that, that's a reason to maybe, I mean, I guess you can't. If you can't buy it, you can't take a position. Duh, it's stupid to even say it. But if you can take a position on SKYX and all of a sudden it's tradable tomorrow and the float is 1.65 million shares, maybe that's an interesting time to, maybe that's an interesting play. I think I am crazy enough to see what's available on the ask. Still pretty early in the day, though. That's the thing I have to remind myself. But we don't have a lot of sell orders. We have 669 shares sold or traded. Maybe it's time to take a look at this. Someone's asking for 1068 for 200 shares. I already took 200 at 1085. Can't imagine people are just trying to. Someone ate up those shares, so. If I can get in for 1065, maybe add a little bit. All right, so we have really thin volume here. We have probably not too many. I mean, you can see my order just showed up here. Not finding SKYX. Drop. So we said, if it's not trading on trade desks, don't buy in. Certainly part of what we're trying to do is avoid getting blown out and recognizing where the debut trade doesn't make sense. And we saw that very clearly in SKYX. We understood that there was no, the demand was going to be diminished because people couldn't buy it on some desks. Oh, somebody's jockeying me on the order, which is another sign to me of accumulation. I'm seeing the ask at, I'm still seeing mine as the next one, but 1065, okay. 1062, 1063. Okay, I got, so I added some at 1065. People are starting to jockey each other, and by that I mean somebody has 1060, some 1061. Okay, it looks like it's about to drop again. I guess when I buy it, it's time signals the next level down. 1050 is now the people are pulling their bids and expecting it to drop. Not in the Roth account. I can find it in the individual account. So I'm not taking a big position. I am taking, I'm kind of nibbling in because we saw a similar thing. KSCP was not listed on a whole bunch of registers. This is a super low float with SKYX. So I think I will keep watching for a little while. Might add a little more. I could still add quite a bit if I wanted to get crazy, but I'm not going to go too crazy. I still, don't know what this is going to do. But when I see low float, super low float, it's barely moving. Not going to have a lot of people selling off for immediate losses. Are going to have some people looking to kind of build 933. I think we're going to see a hard knife down here at some point. Someone's going to get fed up with their position. Maybe this guy right here could sell down through quite a few. All it takes is one holder to say, screw it, I'm out of this. And this will plummet pretty hard. But we do kind of see this trend of accumulation. To me, this is people saying, okay, I'm gonna build my position into tomorrow, and then when it's available on all the desks, rip it tomorrow, or even at the end of the day today, we could see a little bit of a climb. Sometimes these go on an end of day run with VWAP way up here at 13, and bag holders up here at 12. I think if you're in at 11, you're in a pretty safe place. 1050 is kind of in, what was the range on this? 11 to 13 was the original range. So I'm in below range. I like that. I like that setup for this, but we'll see. We shall see. All right, I'm going to give this 3 more minutes, guys. We are we've got 24 people on the. What happens if I share the screen that I'm actually streaming? This is just interesting. Do I get the? Yes, the infinite tunnel. Interesting. Sorry. All right, that was fun. We saw into the future. What was that? Okay. I'm clearly getting a little bit tired here. I'm in a much better mood than I thought I would be today, given the CPI data, and hope all of you are as well. Got my stink bids out there in INNW, and gonna pretty much ride this out for the day. The trend has been accumulate low float IPOs on day 1 and be ready to sell them on day 2. I mean, look at that. Someone's ready to swoop up, gobble up, just hoover at 480 on Htcr. When I see that, I think, okay, great. Tomorrow should be fun. So I like these. I like both of these for tomorrow. Don't overextend yet on SKYX. I have a hard time seeing Htcr falling much. I mean, when you've got volume is down to triple digits, that's kind of like, I think today has had its day, and we will come and play these tomorrow. But I see people trying to eat this up here. They've got a huge order at 480. I don't think there's a lot of sellers. You got people trying to like edge their way in here. I might even add a little bit just to bring my my average just down below 5 in case that does become resistance. But I hope you all had a good time here today. Last chance, I guess not last chance. You can smash the like and subscribe at any time. But appreciate you guys joining me. Hope you guys had fun. And we'll see if I can do this tomorrow. I think I'll be online just to watch them. I'm not particularly excited about anything tomorrow, but maybe we'll be getting out of these trades and hopefully banking some wins on the day 2 runs here. So if I had to pick one, I like Htcr, but SKYX, this, when you see this, no upside move yet, people haven't been able to trade it. It's kind of primed for a pump tomorrow. We saw again, KC. We saw last thing I want to show you is just the volume. Man, volume on day one for 4 million share float, only 1.6 million shares floated. Volume on day two, 28 million shares. Volume on day three, 42 million shares. So seeing tiny volume here on SKYX on day one for an IPO. That is odd. Let's hope that people find this and send it flying tomorrow, because you never know. Never know where the hype will be. And as long as we don't see kind of delayed response to the CPI data tomorrow, day traders might be looking for something. So, okay. All right, Andrew, Stan, NASCAR, JMF50, Greg Wett, Jeremy. Thanks for joining, guys. I will end the broadcast now, and I'll be in the Reddit chat group, and I'll be on Twitter for a bit. So then I'll move on to some other things for the day. But happy trading. Good luck. This is not financial advice. This is not advice at all. These are ideas. Even if I say what I'm going to do or what I would do, or even say, hey, it's a good idea to do this, it is not advice. It is just an idea. Trade your own trade. Take your own profits. Say please, thank you, respect your elders, all that good stuff.